The three women stood in his barn like they owned it, not asking, not explaining, just waiting. Eli had never seen them before in his life, but they knew his name. They knew he lived alone, and they knew exactly where to find the spare key he kept hidden under a loose floorboard. The eldest one held a leather pouch that jingled with coins. More money than Eli had seen in years. But when he reached for it, she pulled it back with a knowing smile. "The chief said you'd try to refuse," she said. Her English was perfect, but her accent was from a tribe he didn't recognize. That was impossible. The nearest tribal lands were 3 days north. No chief had ever set foot on his failing ranch. But then the youngest sister spoke. "He told us you'd ask about the scar." Eli's hand shot to his shoulder, to the old wound hidden beneath his shirt. A wound only 3 people on this earth knew about. His dead father, a doctor who'd moved east, and a tribal medicine man who'd found him bleeding in the desert 15 years ago. A man whose face he barely remembered, but whose words still echoed in his mind. "One day, I will send my daughters to collect what you owe." These weren't just strangers. They were a debt he'd forgotten he had. A debt he'd made in a fever dream when he was 19 and dying. But the medicine man had only mentioned daughters, not 3 sisters who looked nothing alike, spoke with different accents, and wore clothes from 3 different tribes. And if they were here to collect a debt, why did the pouch full of gold feel like a payment? The memory crashed back. The desert heat. The blood soaking his shirt. An old man's weathered hands cleaning the wound. The promise he'd made. "You promised him 3 horses," the eldest woman said. "But you had no horses, so he said you would give him something more valuable when the time came." The middle sister stepped forward, and Eli finally noticed their size. These weren't ordinary women. Each stood nearly as tall as him, with broad shoulders and strong arms. They filled the barn like 3 great oaks. "I'm Nora," the eldest said. "This is Cora, and that's Willa. Our father sent us," she continued. "His time is running short. The white man's sickness took most of our people. Only we 3 remain of his blood." Eli's mouth went dry. "Your father, the medicine man?" "Chief Ayana," Nora corrected. "He became chief when the old one died last winter. And yes, he remembered the foolish boy who promised whatever he needed in exchange for his life." Eli looked around his failing ranch, the sagging roof, the empty corral. Why here? Why now? Willa, the youngest, laughed, a bitter sound. "Because the soldiers are coming for our land. Because we need protection that only a white man's name can give us. Because you owe a debt." Cora spoke for the first time, her voice softer than her sister's. "Father is dying. His last wish is to see us safe. A marriage to a landowner would give us legal standing. Give us a chance." A marriage. The word hung in the air. "I'm 3 months behind on my mortgage," Eli stammered. "The bank's coming to take this place any day now." Nora opened her pouch and poured a handful of gold coins into her palm. More money than Eli's entire ranch was worth. "Father's savings. The last of what our people have. It's yours, if you honor your word." It was everything he'd ever dreamed of. Enough to save his land, fix the roof, buy cattle. But the price was 3 wives, 3 giant women from a dying tribe. "I need time to think," he said. "Time is what we don't have," Nora replied. "The soldiers march in a matter of days. Father expects an answer by sunset." She paused, her dark eyes boring into his. "He also said to tell you about the other promise." Eli's blood ran cold. He had made another promise, a curse he'd uttered in his fever. "If you ever break your word to me," he'd whispered to the medicine man, "may my bloodline end with me." "He remembers," Willa said, seeing the color drain from his face. "Good. That makes this easier." Cora pulled a rolled paper from her belt. A marriage contract. Written in English, witnessed by the territorial judge in Prescott, all legal and proper. She spread it on a hay bale. 3 wives, 1 husband. How did you get a judge to sign this? Eli asked, stunned. Gold buys many things, Nora said simply, including discretion. The barn door creaked open. A figure stood silhouetted against the setting sun. It was Chief Ayanna. He looked just as Eli remembered, but older, thinner, the kind of thin that spoke of sickness eating a man from the inside out. My daughters have explained, the chief asked, his voice a ragged whisper. They've explained plenty, Eli shot back. But I never agreed to marry anyone. I was 19 and dying. The chief nodded slowly. Yes, and I was dying last month. But the white doctor in Prescott gave me medicine. Bought me time. He coughed, and Eli saw flecks of blood on his lips. Time to see my daughters safe. The chief's eyes hardened. The cavalry burned 4 villages. Ours is next. But the wives of a white rancher, they'll be protected. Willa stepped between them. He doesn't want us, Father. Look at him. He's scared. I'm not scared, Eli snapped, his pride stung. I'm being practical. I can barely feed myself, let alone 3 giant women. Say it, Cora finished, a bitter smile on her lips. We've heard worse. The chief coughed again, harder this time, blood staining his chin. Decide, Eli Thompson. Honor your word, or face the consequences. What consequences? Nora's hand moved to something hidden under her jacket. Father isn't the only one who remembers promises. Just then, Eli heard the sound he'd been dreading. Hoofbeats, approaching fast. Who's that? He whispered. The chief smiled grimly. That would be my nephews, come to hear your answer. 4 riders emerged from the dust cloud. Young men, with the hard look of warriors who'd seen too much death. The leader, a man with a jagged scar across his cheek, strode into the barn. Uncle, he said, then switched to a rapid tribal language. Chief Ayanna responded sharply. Speak English, Joseph, Nora commanded. Mr. Thompson deserves to understand. Joseph's dark eyes fixed on Eli with open hostility. The cavalry found our camp 2 hours ago. They're asking about 3 missing women. He spat in the dirt. Women who should be helping us prepare for war, not hiding behind a white man's name. War. The word chilled Eli to the bone. The soldiers will come here next, Joseph continued. They're following the trail. When they find them, he gestured at the sisters, they'll kill us all. Cora stepped forward. Not if we're legally married. Not if we have protection under white man's law. Law? Joseph laughed. The same law that says they can kill us for sport? The chief raised his hand, and the argument stopped. He turned to Eli, his face a death mask in the dim light. The choice is simple now. Marry my daughters and give them your name, or watch them die when the soldiers arrive. Eli's throat was dry. When will they get here? Before dawn, Joseph said. Maybe sooner. Eli looked at the 3 women. He saw the exhaustion behind their strength. They weren't conquerors. They were refugees. If I say yes, he said slowly, what happens to you and the chief? We disappear into the mountains, the chief whispered. Live like ghosts. He coughed again. If I live that long, and if I say no, then we all die here together, Nora said simply, because we won't run anymore. A low rumble echoed across the prairie. It wasn't thunder. That's horses, Joseph said, his hand moving to his knife. A lot of them. Chief Ayanna closed his eyes. They're early. The ground vibrated. 20 horses, maybe more, moving fast. Hide in the root cellar, Eli said. All of you, Joseph laughed. You think they'll just take your word for it? They'll search every inch of this place. He drew his knife. Better to die fighting. Put that away, Nora snapped. She turned to Eli, her eyes full of a new fear. He's right. They won't believe you. Cora peered through a crack in the barn wall. 12 soldiers, led by a captain with yellow stripes on his sleeve. She looked back at Eli. Do you know him? Eli's stomach dropped. Captain Morrison. He's been here before, about my mortgage. The bank hired him to pressure me. He ran his hands through his hair. He knows I'm desperate. If he finds you here, he'll think I'm hiding you for money. The hoofbeats stopped right outside. Thompson! Morrison's voice called out. Come out here! Chief Ayanna grabbed Eli's arm. There's something else, he wheezed. My daughters aren't just refugees. They're wanted. Eli's blood turned to ice. Wanted for what? Willa stepped forward, her chin high. We killed the men who burned our village. The words hit Eli like a punch. He stared at the 3 sisters, seeing them in a new light. Not refugees, fugitives. How many men? He whispered. 6, Cora said calmly. They came to our camp drunk. They set fire to the sacred lodge with elders inside. So we tracked them, and we cut their throats while they slept. Thompson! Morrison's voice was right outside the door. Open up! The chief held Eli's arm tighter. Now you know. Marry them, and you're harboring known killers. Refuse, and you're still harboring known killers. His eyes burned with fever. But if they're your wives, you can't be forced to testify against them. The barn door rattled. 1 minute, Thompson, then we're coming in. Eli's eyes darted to the marriage contract on the hay bale. His mind raced through a dozen impossible choices. I need a pen, he whispered. Nora's eyes widened. Cora pulled a pencil from her belt and pressed it into his hand. Without another thought, Eli scrawled his name across the bottom line. He grabbed Nora's hand, guiding her to sign. Quickly, he hissed to Cora and Willa. Both of you. As the last signature went down, Eli turned to Joseph and his cousins. You're my ranch hands. Been here all summer. Keep your mouths shut. The barn door flew open. Captain Morrison strode in, his cold blue eyes sweeping the scene. Thompson, interesting company you're keeping. Eli stepped forward, trying to block the view of the dying chief. Captain, what brings you out so late? Tracking dangerous fugitives, Morrison said, his hand on his pistol. 3 native women who murdered 6 men. Witnesses saw them heading this way. Haven't seen any women, Eli lied. Just hired some new hands. Morrison's eyes fixed on Nora. That's a mighty big ranch hand you got there, Thompson. Eli's heart hammered. This is my wife, Nora Thompson. Just married this afternoon. The silence stretched. Morrison's eyes narrowed, moving from Nora to Cora, then to Willa. Your wife has sisters, does she? My other wives, Eli said, the words feeling alien in his mouth. Cora and Willa Thompson, all legal. One of the soldiers snorted. 3 wives? The kind who follows territorial law, Eli cut in. He held up the marriage certificate, the ink still fresh. Witnessed and sealed in Prescott yesterday. Morrison snatched the document, his jaw tightening as he read the official language, the judge's signature, the legal seals. It was all legitimate. Convenient timing, he said. Marrying 3 native women right when we're hunting 3 native murderers. My wives are Tohono O'odham, Eli lied smoothly. Peaceful farmers from the south, never been anywhere near the Wickham village. Nora stepped forward, somehow making her imposing frame seem smaller, less threatening. Captain, sir, we've been traveling for weeks to reach my husband's ranch. We know nothing of any troubles. Morrison's gaze shifted to the chief. And him? My father-in-law, Eli said. Sick with fever. We're caring for him. Joseph stepped up beside his uncle, supporting him. The sickness took many of our people. Father is all we have left. Morrison studied each face, searching for a lie, for a flicker of fear. He found nothing but tired people caring for a dying old man. He thrust the certificate back at Eli. If I find out you're lying, Thompson, I'll see you hang alongside them. I understand, Captain. As the soldiers rode away, Eli's legs nearly gave out. He stared at the marriage certificate. He'd gone from bachelor to polygamist in 5 minutes. Thank you, Nora said quietly. That was brave. Stupid, more likely, Eli replied. He'll be back. Willa moved to the barn door, keeping watch. Something else Father didn't tell you, she said, her back still to them. Eli's stomach clenched. What now? The bounty on our heads. It's not just from the government. She turned, her eyes dark in the lamplight. The dead men's families put up their own reward. $500 each, dead or alive. $1,500. A fortune. Every bounty hunter from here to California will be coming for us, Cora added quietly. As if summoned, the distant sound of hoofbeats echoed across the prairie. Eli blew out the lamp. Through the window, he saw 3 riders approaching slowly. These weren't soldiers. They moved like hunters. Bounty hunters, Willa whispered. Nora moved to the back door, Cora to the side window. They spread out, a coordinated defense. A polite knock echoed through the small house. Mr. Thompson, sorry to bother you. We're looking for some missing women. Eli opened the door a crack. A middle-aged man with kind eyes and a gun on his hip stood on his porch. Name's Fletcher. We're tracking 3 native women who murdered some folks up north. Big women, traveling together. Seen anyone like that? Just my wives, Eli said. Married yesterday. Fletcher's smile never wavered, but his eyes sharpened. Mind if I meet them? There was no refusing. Of course, come in. Fletcher stepped inside, but his 2 partners remained outside, flanking the house. Nora emerged from the kitchen with a coffee pot, a perfect picture of domesticity. Ma'am, Fletcher said. Congratulations. Thank you, Nora replied. Coffee? He accepted a cup, but didn't drink. Your husband says the ceremony was yesterday. Where was it? Prescott, Cora said, entering from the bedroom with Willa. Judge Morrison performed it. Fletcher's eyebrows rose. 3 wives, that's unusual. Legal in this territory, Eli said quickly. Oh, I know it's legal. Fletcher set down his cup. It's just that the women I'm tracking are also 3 sisters, also unusually large. What are the odds? The silence was a razor's edge. I'll tell you the odds, Fletcher continued, his hand moving casually toward his gun. Pretty slim. So I'm thinking we need to take a closer look at that marriage certificate. Willa stepped forward, a hunting knife appearing in her hand. Maybe you should leave. Fletcher's friendly mask dropped. And maybe you should come with me, quietly. Dead or alive, the bounty pays the same. Just then, the front door swung open. Chief Ayanna stood there, supported by Joseph, looking like a ghost. But he was holding something that made Fletcher's face go white. A silver badge, official, with territorial markings. Deputy Chief Ayanna, the old man wheezed, holding up the badge. Territorial Marshal's office. These women are under my protection. Fletcher stared. That's impossible. Check the files in Prescott, Ayanna said, his voice gaining a final surge of strength. I've been working undercover for 6 months, tracking the real killers. These women are my operatives. It was a desperate, brilliant lie. Fletcher hesitated. Undercover marshals don't marry their operatives to civilians. They do when it's the only way to maintain cover, Ayanna rasped. The real killers are white men, dressed as natives, trying to start a war. The lie was perfect. It explained everything. It gave Fletcher a way to back down without losing face. I'll need to verify this in Prescott, Fletcher said finally, holstering his gun. At the door, he looked back at Eli. You're either the luckiest man in the territory or the unluckiest. Time will tell. As the bounty hunters rode away, Chief Ayanna collapsed. The badge fell from his fingers, clattering on the floor. Where did you get that? Eli asked, kneeling beside him. The chief smiled weakly. Took it off a dead marshal 3 years ago. Been saving it for something important. His breathing grew shallow. Thought tonight qualified. They watched him slip away peacefully, surrounded by his daughters. His last words were in his native tongue. He said we should be happy, Nora translated, weeping for the first time since Eli had met her. He said we found a good man. As the sun rose, Eli found himself alone with his 3 wives. The weight of their new reality settled over them. So, Willa said, breaking the silence. What now? Eli looked around his small house. I suppose we figure out how to make this work. Over the following weeks, they did more than manage. Nora took charge of the ranch's finances, using the gold to pay off the mortgage and buy livestock. Her business sense was as sharp as her survival instincts. Cora organized their lives with military precision, turning the failing ranch into a thriving enterprise. And Willa, she brought laughter back into Eli's quiet life, her fierce spirit reminding him what it felt like to hope for more than just survival. The arrangement born of necessity slowly became something deeper. Not love, not yet, but respect, affection, and a profound partnership. When Captain Morrison returned a month later, he found a prosperous ranch run by a confident man and his capable wives. The transformation was so complete, he left without another question. You know, Eli said one evening as they sat on the porch, when your father said I'd be your husband, I thought it was the worst thing that could happen to me. And now? Nora asked. Eli looked at the 3 strong women who had saved his ranch, his purpose, and maybe his soul. Now, he said, I think it might be the best. As the stars came out, Eli Thompson, no longer a failing rancher, but a man with a family worth fighting for, finally understood. He hadn't just paid a debt, he had honored it, and in doing so, he'd found something he never knew he was looking for. A place to belong. If you enjoyed this story, click the video on your screen now to watch another unforgettable tale where destiny and courage collide in ways you never expected. Don't forget to subscribe and consider a super chat to help us keep bringing you more stories like these. Your support means everything to us.